Okay, so it says, in my dreams, the angel said, you can only know something for so long before you have to admit it to yourself. And I said, I haven't found any real time limit myself. And she laughed so loud I woke up, and from far away I heard her whisper, "Time's up."
Wow.
So again,
There's a lot of stuff going on there.
well,
Oh, and
there,
then
there's not, because here's what they talk about. Consider how often we know, both individually and collectively, that time's up on an old way of doing things. You know exactly how far that is for you. For me, there's always a vague sense of discomfort or unease that, like, I'm feeling like when you leave the house and wonder if you've left something on.
Hmm.
We heard this is him talking. We heard in an interview with a brain scientist a few weeks ago. And while much of it was simply coming at things from a slightly different angle, there was one thing that he said that lit up the room for both of us. Your brain is designed to be happy, he said. If it isn't, it's because you are actively working against you and your brain, which made me wonder if that's really the thing with knowing when time's up on something. What if it is as simple as your whole self going, hey, that thing you're doing, it's not working. So stop it so we can be happier. Because the one thing I learn again and again is that when I finally admit it, there's a letting go, as if all the edges I've pulled in and tightened around me suddenly relax and the whole universe gets to rush in and play with me again. So that's kind of his art and his poetry, and that's kind of what his thing is. But I thought that was really amazingly poignant for kind of what we're trying to get to. I think we're trying to get, again, if we only made it a priority to be happy first and then everything else second, you know, what are the things that we would do? Would they be things that would be neglect other people, or would they be things that would be good for everybody? Would they be things that I would, once I unleashed my own happiness, would I be way better for everybody else if I did?
Mm.
So again, for me, that's been an ongoing kind of theme for a long time.
Yeah, it's a chicken or the egg almost. Yeah.
Well, I'm in control of that way more than I allow myself to believe. And when I think, and I think we all do this, we all start to feel like these things are coming at me, and this stuff is happening to me, and these things are coming into my life. Why is that happening to me? Why are those things happening? And then we've just destroyed our own ability to handle them. So
Yeah.
it takes us going through all this turmoil, and then us finally saying to ourselves, oh fuck, I just need to stop. I just need to regroup. I can't control that. But the time that it takes to do that is just so hard on human beings. And
Yeah.
it makes people mad and sad and upset. And we go through that first, and we have to go through something hard
Hmm.
before we decide to be happy. And I think that's such a human phenomenon that
Very
it
much.
really is it way easier than we think it is? And if so, how come the smart people aren't way happier? How come we haven't mastered that? How come we're not all yogis
Yeah.
to some degree, where we understand that? And can you hear that?
So my question is, do you think that that's where meditation comes in, because it abruptly stops everything? Good, either way, either your control or just boom, stops it for 20 minutes, and then you can kind of get the momentum back in the way you want to get it or how you feel it. I know that a lot of people talk about having a rush of energy from meditating. I personally haven't felt that, but maybe just a sort of a weight off the shoulders. That's my first thing. Like, how do you stop that? How do you arrest that? Or like the guy said, how do you wake up without quieting down? I don't know if that's connected. I'm
Yeah,
sure
well,
it
I
all
think
is. I'm sure it all is.
well, no, it's all true. That is meditation. Is stepping out and being in the moment.
Right.
Not allowing all the things that you put. I mean, I don't know what there's probably a scientific stat to this, but let's say my brain is dealing with 50 things in any given 20 things, 30 things in any given
Yeah,
moment.
for
You
sure.
know what I'm dealing with, and not even conscious that I'm thinking about. I'm walking, I'm
Right.
talking, I'm getting in the car, I'm holding a drink and trying not to spill. I mean, just all those things that come, and then there's all the emotional things that you're constantly pushing out, and it's coming in, and you're trying
Hmm.
to deal with it, and you're trying to keep things out, and when you learn good meditation, I mean, you can take everything out,
Yeah.
everything comes out of your head, and you
Hmm.
stop thinking thoughts, and you start living moments by moment in a peaceful way. And that's why, people can only do it for so long. They don't live in an ashram somewhere. They can meditate for hours on the day.
Right, 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 right.
Actually, like, it's kind of like COVID, I mean,
Yeah.
I can go freaking sit down and quiet down for 30 minutes that I could never get that far. And I'm a guy who the first year or so that I ever meditated for seriously, I was getting maybe 2 or 3 minutes. It
Yeah.
just, I couldn't get there, to save my life. And it was a lot of processing and a number of things, getting the thoughts out of my head. But anyways, I mean, but we don't work at it. We don't have it like a list of things. Like, I'll go to the gym and I'll freaking lift every day, and I'll feel good about myself, and that'll make me feel good. But I don't work that hard on my happiness.
Right.
You think you do. Usually all that, although slows down some of those thoughts,
Yeah.
stops some of those thoughts hammering away. So if you go from 50 thoughts to 20 thoughts, you think you're really doing something. What if you can go to, no thoughts, and have that 5 minutes
Yeah.
of
That's strange,
what's
isn't
the
it?
most.
That idea that how come you feel better? Kids are asking me that. So when we talk about drugs and alcohol in psychology class, a good majority of the students are freaked out when they find out that alcohol is a depressant, is categorized as a depressant, and they're looking at it, in that. They're like, "What do you mean? I put the, I swing the towel around my head, and I put the lamp on my head. Like I'm feeling good. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not tired. I'm not depressed. And I'm like, oh no,
Mhm.
it depresses your inhibitions. And then I want to use it a different way. For me, my whole grief, or I have a good percentage of my brain that's looking out for safety of my family and others. And for whatever reason, and that could be on a football field, it could
Right.
be in my car, it could be in my house, it could be at the mall. I have something in my brain that says there's evil out there or whatever. Sheepdog. I'm not really a sheepdog like my son, but like I feel like I'm, especially when it comes to Colleen and things like that. But so I'm always on alert. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm always making contingencies about stuff that hasn't even fucking happened, Chuck. Like I will waste my brain power and my emotions on something that has not even happened. And here I am going to school, getting a degree, creating a career that would afford me a way out of dangerous neighborhoods, whatever you want to call it. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not, I'm not sure. But like I'm in a better situation than maybe when I was younger or something, dangerous wise, you know. And yet I still can't release that constant on alert centurion nonsense. And it is kind of baffling, like, shouldn't I be, I have if I live in a gated community, should I relax more or should I focus on the reason why I have a gated community? Like I'm fascinated by that.
Well, and it's because it's not taught.
I don't think
You
so.
don't get taught it. You get taught at a young age to freaking protect your house, protect your mom, protect
Yeah.
your property, protect yourself. The world's a rough place. You have to be able to be tough to survive. You have to pay attention. You have to know
Right.
where, and the more that fits your personality and your makeup, your sensibilities, then all of a sudden, you're following and listening to the people that are talking about how you do that.
Oh yeah.
Wow. There's
I'm late
somebody
to the
said,
game
wow.
with guns and late to the game with all that for sure. Yeah.
Well, and cops, cops. I'm around. I'm raised around cops, and they know where to sit when they walk in a restaurant.
Mm.
They know where to do. And the thing is though, is that some of those things. I mean, if I say I'm going to sit facing that door, and the exit is behind me, and I feel comfortable with that, well, then I've eliminated some the thoughts. if I got my back to the what I think is the important spot, then there's 9 more thoughts or 10 more thoughts. So I got to eliminate it.
Quite
Now I
a
feel more comfortable, and I'm constantly trying to check off a box so that I don't have to worry about that anymore. You know, did I turn off the iron? Yes. Did I turn off the lights and lock the door? Of course I did.
That's so great.
You know, and then it's one less thing to think about. What you have to do is you have to stop what's trying to flood in and fill that space. You know,
Yeah.
because once you check things off and start to feel more comfortable, then there's more room for more thoughts. And oh
Right.
yeah, and what about human brain is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
the people that write the poetry and the people that sing the song, write the songs, and people that play the instruments, and the people that get to that higher brain function of something specific, you know, it's kind of like you'd think that all the people that are musically inclined or are great actors or have some craft that they do that's amazing, you think that they would be people that would be the ones who were the most well adjusted, because they should have well, it's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
You know, to get to all that beauty, then something else has to be a little whack, you
What's
know.
the expense, right?
Well, and to me, that's like, you know, I sit and laugh at that shit sometimes. Like, that's funny about life, you
Right.
know? Like, there's no way you're gonna have it all. Don't ever fucking think you are. You think you're bad now, you know, fucking act a little bit like a fucking punk ass and see what happens to you. You
Right.
know, shit will change, and you'll lose something or you'll gain something or you'll have another responsibility or something, you know, that overwhelms you. And you know, I think it's just it's all made up so that if you just look for the peace, take care of yourself, you know, remind yourself that other people feel just as fucking nutty as you do most of the time.
Yeah.
And I do most of the time. I don't
Yeah.
mean you particularly, but you
Right.
know, I mean, we all feel that. We should be like way empathetic about those things, because it's hard as hell. You
Yeah.
know, it's hard. It hurts. It's physical. It's not, it's mind numbing. And, you know, so when I read the poetry and somebody has a connection, or I listen to the song and it's a connection to my pain, it softens my load.
Yeah.
Makes me feel better. It makes me feel calmer because I'm not alone. And that's all I want.
Yeah. That dude's like your ally right now. He's got your back right now.
Yeah.
The way we like to think about it. But
Yeah.
even that,
But
nobody needs your
the
back.
thing is I think if we could lead with that more, if we could teach that more, if we would teach, I mean, what would our schools be like if we, you know, from 3rd grade on, you'd had a meditation hour or
Instead of detention.
20, 30 minutes, you know,
Mhm.
instead of detention. Exactly. You know, and I know that, you know, I've seen people that
They've done
do
that.
stuff like that, you know, and try stuff like that. And it's just, it seems like a no-brainer. But it goes right back to that feeling that only the shitty stuff gets attention. You know, it's
Yeah.
like that's way too left and way too hippie. Excuse me, for me to, you know, buy into and put money into and that kind of stuff. You know,
Right.
can't do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, like I find out, you know, there's a couple of things that I made in my mind up as a young person that I was going to limit the exposure to getting stolen from or in any way, you know, taken advantage of in any way. That seemed like something that mattered to me and my self-esteem. I feel like if I get punked, I'm like, oh man, I dropped the ball on that. And number 2 is the idea that I don't like to do the same thing over, you know, I'm not that insanity guy. I'm not going to put my head through the wall often if I can, you know, especially superficially, like just on dumb stuff, everyday stuff. Clearly, emotionally, I will definitely put my head into the wall more than once about the same thing without getting to the bottom of it. But I don't get that. Like, you know, I feel like there's certain people, let's say in Washington, that are trying to move forward, and there's certain people that are trying to hang on to what it was. And strictly my point is I don't know if what it was or what it is all that special. And I want to just keep moving. I want to have that growth mindset, and I want to move in a direction that's going to, it feels good to have momentum in my mind. It doesn't feel good. I get ashamed of myself when I talk about the glory days of football or the glory days of this. I'm like, Jesus, man, what have you done for me lately, Tom? You know, like, and it's fine. And it's great to have a beer and laugh about it and catch a fish this big. And, you know, it gets bigger and bigger every time and, you know, all that stuff. But that's all fun and games for the fellas and all that. And you have, I feel lucky to have people in my life that even know those stories, because I don't think anybody that I met nowadays would believe me. But you had to be there, Chuck. You had to be there.
Well, that's part of you gotta tell it though. Anyway.
Yeah.
You don't believe me. I tell the truth. I'm not telling you stories that aren't true.
Well, that's why we have two people here, because you can back up my craziness, and I can back up you.
Well,
Chuck was there. He knows.
Or we'll go out and find the people that are gonna back our stories up. But
so, I just don't know why. You know, like initially with politics, I was like, I don't know if I want to go back to those times. You know, I don't know if the 70s didn't do nothing for me. You know, like I didn't, the 80s were hurtful, you know, in a lot of ways. They fucking banged me up pretty good. And the 90s were just me living on the sort of the exposed nerve constantly, you know, the grunge and the angst and and I was smart enough to play that string and do things that were, you know, that would be good for it. Like, you know, coaching football, it's nice to have the energy, and, you know, wherever that energy comes from, hey man, you know, and hey, it's on you, man, figure it out yourself. And the kids are going to be there. You better. So, you know, and it doesn't work all the time in the house, but you know, I was able, I guess what I'm saying is I was able to play that one string. And now I'm wondering what that next string is. It's not the same string. It's a different tune.
It's got to be the evolution of our growth.
Right.
You know, I mean, I have to feel like I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise I feel guilty about not getting better at it. You know, I mean, if the same things are repeating themselves and giving me grief and making my life unhappy, and I'm not changing what I can, but I'm wallowing in the unhappiness and the sadness. That's why, you know, teaching young kids how to go out and murder each other on the football field is one way to do it. You know, teaching guys that have gone, I mean, dealing with guys that have to go to war and how the mentality that you have to teach those guys, you can't let them, you know, feel sorry and sad and all that emotional crap, you know, but there's a certain amount of, and I think it comes with the style of coaching that we talk about sometimes is, you know, it's a transformational process, you know, and if we have all these great gifts as tough guys, as athletes, as, you know, being stud, doesn't it behoove us to be even kinder and more aware and reaching down and picking people up, because we've been blessed with the toughness that we can deal with things, and we're fortunate to be able to know how to deal with adversity and been taught. Can you still